Apologies for that. A few internet issues. Audio wasn't coming through, I believe. Welcome everybody to Something More Than Gibberish. Today our featured guest is Jerome E. Ellis. Instagram handle is poetic.rome. I'll be joined shortly by Jerome and also my co-host GeminiFox. I'll bring them up right now. I hope you all had a great week. So Jerome, hi Gemini, welcome.
Hello, sir.
I had a slight technical difficulty with the audio, but we're back on track. You can hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you okay.
Awesome. Jerome's in the building, so we'll get him up shortly. So this segment is where we feature a guest each week. It's not an open mic, and we will hear from the featured guest, hear about their journey, hear some of their poetry, and expound on it, and see what discussions sort of evolve from the poetry. So without further ado, I will bring up Jerome. Why isn't he coming up? Let's try it again. Here we are. And how's your day been, Gemini?
It's been okay.
Hey, how are you, Jerome? Welcome. Yes, there's a bit of background noise though.
There's a slight echo.
Can you hear us all right, Jerome?
Yeah, is that better?
The echo seems to have gone.
Okay.
How are you? How's your week been?
I'm doing well, considering the week was a rough week. This is my son's passing, so we're getting through.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, you're breaking up a little bit there. Are you with us, Gemini? Gemini's dropped off. She's managed to swap herself out. Okay, bring Gemini back up. Geez, this morning's been full of technical difficulties. You swap yourself off, young lady.
Why you have to tell everybody?
Well, you just disappeared, so we figured you must have. So, Jerome, welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. As I said, so what we'll try to do is hear some of hear your journey, hear how you started writing, how what drives you, etc. Hear some of your pieces, and after each piece, we'll try to just expound on each piece and see what conversations evolve. And
Sure thing.
you met Gemini, I hope.
This is the first time. How are you? Nice to see you.
I'm doing okay. Nice to see you as well. This is our first time meeting.
So, Jerome, the first time I came across your work was, besides sort of following some of your work, it was the first time I really got to know a bit more about you in depth was on your interview with Unraveled. And I've certainly enjoyed your pieces. They're very in depth, very powerful, very sensitive, and particularly the one on loss, losing children, domestic violence, etc. You seem to write on quite a varied range of subjects. And also, you've got one book out, and your second book is out, due out shortly, if not already, correct?
That's
Yeah, so
correct.
really
Yep.
looking forward to hearing all about that as well. So, my friend, I'll leave the stage to you to tell us a bit about you and how you started writing and how the journey evolved.
So my name is Jerome Ellis. I go by author J.E. Rome, and on here I am Poetic Rome. And I started writing poetry by accident. Um, I had been online writing things, sharing different things, and one day I shared a poem, and it got the most likes that I'd ever gotten, and I was like, I'm gonna run with this, and that turned into me making longer pieces, and to the point where I was sharing like on a semi-daily basis, and people were like, "You should write a book. You should write a book," and I'm like, I don't know anything about writing a book. So I wrote like hundreds of poems, and I was like, I really have something here. And I showed it to a friend, and they were like, "That's awesome, but who's your target audience?" And I was like, "Ah, crap. I don't have a target
Yeah,
audience." So I scrapped everything that I had, and I went back. And this was at a time where like we were Family Feud was like really at an all-time high in my family. So I was very angry. So someone was like, I went to the doctor, and I was having severe anxiety attacks, and the doctor was like, "You got to find a way to release this." And I said, "Well, I write some poetry." He's like, "Well, then write about that, write about this, write about what's going on in your life." So one angry poem turned into another angry poem, turned into another angry poem, and it was like, I think I found
mm,
my audience. That being abuse and family and things of that nature. So that's what I did. I ran with the family tree.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Yes, it's funny how we find poetry can be quite therapeutic and healing in many ways, isn't it? What I've myself found it started writing was just to get my focus where all these millions of thoughts in my head, putting it down on paper, literally focused my thoughts. And I wrote just for myself for many years, for 20 years. I never shared my work with publicly anywhere, other than a handful of close friends who'd read it, who were trying to understand me. So, and it was for that healing journey. Yeah. And,
I don't think anyone will ever fully understand me.
but that's okay. The main thing, the only person that really needs to understand you is you. Just like I'm the only one who's really got to understand me. At the end of the day, it's our
That
individual, unique journeys, right? So, um,
right.
yeah, now you also certainly had a fair bit of trials and tribulations as you went through life as well, right? So, and all that. Yeah.
Exactly. So the thing is, when you think of abuse, you try to put a face to it. You probably wouldn't put my
Mm,
face to it, and that's what I try to share with people. Is like you never know what somebody else is going through just by looking at them. And like I'm not saying that I've had the worst life of anybody in this world. I just had many situations that stacked onto each other and created this whole ball of misery. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm the type of person that I bottle everything up. I don't share it. I don't, let anyone in. I just sit in it. And the rule in our family was what happens in the family stays in the family. So if it happened in our house, we
mm,
weren't allowed to talk about it. And we just kept it to ourselves. So that's basically what I started writing about was personal, like everything that ever messed me up in my head. I was like, I got to get this out, and that's what I started doing. I started writing about all of the abuse, and it was like verbal, mental, physical, sexual, you name it. I've
mm,
been through it, and some of it is embarrassing. A lot of it is embarrassing, to be honest with you, but I had to overcome in order to share my story. So that's what I do. I share personal experiences with the world in hopes that people will know that you're not alone in whatever situation that you're going through, because I'm going
Yeah.
through it too.
And that's quite key, isn't it? One of the things, the old stigma about keeping things internally and not airing our dirty laundry publicly, that would have been a big challenge to overcome in getting your books out and getting your word out. Because, yeah, that was the stigma. Because let's hide it in amongst the closets and pretend it'll go away. But that's so far from a healthy approach to it, isn't it? Like, and
Yeah, it was always like forgive and forget it ever happened. Like an incident would happen today, and we're breaking bread at
yeah,
Thanksgiving. You know what I mean? Like, and that can be awkward in itself, because it's like you're looking at people that may have wronged you in a specific way, and you've got to pretend that it never existed. You got to put on a happy face. You got to smile. You got to interact, and especially like where I have children now, I had to like be strong for them, and in doing so, I always promised myself that I wasn't going to raise my children the way that I was raised. I was going to bring them up differently. And it's like, how do you look them in the eyes and like tell them
mm,
like I was abused? You know what I mean? That's why I'm so strict with you. That's why you can't go anywhere alone. That's why I want you with me all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want what happened to me in five
yeah.
seconds to happen to you in three. You know what I mean? Like, so
And that's also another really valid point you make, because as parents, we live and we try to protect our kids from our own shadows. And through that, it's a fine line between not letting them experience and live their life and being overprotective and being careless as well. And you can't blame one. You've had
exactly.
experienced things firsthand and you try to protect them from all that, right?
Yeah, well, from the outside looking in, it looked like what an overprotective a-hole. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse, so I'm going to try not to. But what an
Yeah,
overprotective person he is. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, I've been through some stuff, and
yeah,
I'm on high alert. You know what I mean? Especially around my children. You know what I mean? So, and even to this day, like being around people, when I go into a restaurant, I can't sit my back to people. I got to be facing people so that I can see my surroundings. It's like it's really bad walking through the mall. I'm constantly, my head's on a swivel to make sure that I'm not going to get hit from behind or anything. You know what I
I
mean?
know.
Like it's
Well,
really
I still
affected
sit,
me in the past.
I'm just through going through stuff through the not so nice years, sort of 30, 40 years ago, on the streets. I still sit at a restaurant or any public place facing the front door with my back to a wall where I can see anybody coming in. I'll go to an ATM. I'm always looking. It's those age-old animal instincts that don't leave, right, when you got hit from behind. Yeah.
Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, I grew up with a particular family member that like they love to cuff you in the
yeah.
back of the head. Like if you weren't walking fast enough, you get hit in the back of the head. If you're a dilly dally, you get hit in the back of the head. So like here I am, and as an adult, like
Yeah.
not wanting to get hit in the back of the head. You know what I mean?
There's a comment in there which is also a very sad fact. Quite often, a lot of the perpetrators are close friends, family, loved ones that we should be able to trust, right? And
Yeah. For me, my perpetrator was a relative, um,
mm,
or similar in age, and the problem is that the adults knew that they had an issue, but they didn't watch us enough around that person with the
yeah,
issues. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why I said with my kids, if my kids are around other kids,
yeah,
I'm a hawk. You know, you're not going out of my sight. You're not doing anything, and I don't really get into the specifics of what happened to me in the first book. In the second book, I tell you exactly
yeah,
what happened.
yeah,
Like to the point of where I stood,
mm,
what happened, how it happened. And the only reason I did that was because, again, when I dropped tapped, you found out that I was sexually abused.
mm,
Nobody in my family knew. I kept it a secret. But someone said, if he's airing all our dirty laundry, is he going to air ours? And I was like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Yeah.
I'll share mine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if it's gonna help someone else, then absolutely, that's what this is about. It was about me healing. It was about helping others. So that's what I did. I wrote in the book about what happened to me, and a lot of like I said, my family members, it was their first time finding out, and one particular family member said, "Well, how many times
Mm.
could that have happened?
Mm.
How many
Yeah.
times should that have happened?" You know what I mean? Like
It
I
only
tell
it should
you,
not happen one time.
Mm.
And the fact that they said that,
exactly. I tell you that I'm sexually assaulted, and you say, "Well, how many times could that happen?"
Mm.
Furious.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like,
when I
and
mentioned it,
and
mine
this is
told me, my family told me, well, how could that possibly happen? When did it happen? Um,
Mm.
so I understand.
so. So what I did was I opened up to a family member, and they said, "Well, if it happened, you must have wanted it to happen, or you must have deserved it." And I was like, here I am. I want to say I was 11 years old, and I'm thinking, why would I want
Mm.
that to happen to me? I
Mm.
wouldn't want that to happen to you. Like, and my perpetrator was a male. So at the time, I was like, holy shit, am I gay? I'm not gay. Like, what the, well, you just did the most inappropriate, not the most, but to me, a seriously inappropriate thing to me. And now I'm questioning
Mm.
myself. And I run home to a family member, and I'm trying to confide, and you're telling me I must have wanted it. And I was like,
Mm.
oh shit. But on top of that, their next response was, well, you better not tell anyone. If you do, I'll make it hell for all of you. And all of you meant my siblings. And I wasn't going to let anything happen to my
Mm.
siblings, so I'm not saying shit.
That emotional blackmail is pretty horrendous, actually. And one of the things that you mentioned in your second book, you said you've been quite explicit and detailed. Now, I know sometimes that will unnerve people, but I personally think in that detailed narrative, I think besides a message to people undergo the victims, potential victims that might, as you said, learn that you're not alone. There's others who've been through this. Reach out, but it also should give the supervisors of those kids, of those adolescents, the parents or the caretakers, give them a message as well on these are things that you need to watch, because don't think from your adult head. Think of what the victim's going through. Think from their mindset, right? What they are feeling. As you said, you were questioning your own sexuality, right? So as a parent,
Right.
as for me, just getting the anger side and wanting to kill the perpetrator, but
Mm-hmm.
also understanding what the victim, what the child is going through, and trying to help them through that. Because as parents, that's also a vital thing, right? We want to protect them, but then we also got to try and help them heal as well. So understanding the victim's mindset, like me, I've have touched wood, I have not experienced this. Maybe I was just an angry sod that anybody got in my space, so I attacked them. But for me, if I was faced with that, luckily even my children, and not to my knowledge, I never had to deal with that. But if I had to, it's key for me to understand the child's perspective and what they need, besides me venting my anger and wanting to go and punish the perpetrator. So there's a lot of valuable lessons for many in that. I think that we can't overlook, because we're all learning, right? We're all, even as adults, we're still learning.
So in my book, I give you a couple of instances with that perpetrator. And in the very beginning, when we're just young children, I kind of. So what happens in my book is, if you haven't read it, if you don't know, before the book ever even came out, my family threatened to sue me, adults specifically, without me ever releasing the book, without even knowing what was written. They were like, if you go cross this line, we're suing. And I'm like, you don't even know what I'm saying. So I had to come up with an intelligent way to describe my family without letting people know who was
Mm.
who. So what I did was I was like, well, I'm speaking about family. Let's talk about the family tree. So what my book does is I call adults leaves. I call children seeds. There's nuts, there's weeds, so I speak in metaphor. And then there's no names. I wrote the entire book so that you couldn't tell who was who. And then after I was finished, I went back again and I took out he, she. So now it's non-gender specific. You can't tell if it's a male or a female. And then to cover my behind once more, I took myself out of the beginning of the book. So anything that said I now said he. And when I did that, that changed the book, whereas you could relate to it because I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about someone else now. And now you're like, oh, wow, that could have been me. That could have been you. And here's the kicker. Once I did that and the book got published, family members were like, I can't believe he said that about me. I can't believe he said this about me. I can't believe he said that about you. And I'm like, dude, there's no names. You just totally admitted everything you did. Like, you see what I'm saying?
That was very smart. That was
Yes.
very smart. And a lot of times writing in a third person or writing with metaphor is a good way to express yourself and not point fingers. Even if it wasn't a situation like this, even if it was like a marriage, a relationship, or a broken friendship, to put it to where that person can read it, and if there is some guilt there, if there is some lack of accountability that was not taken, they can see themselves without you having to point the finger at them. So it's all up to them now because they can see themselves.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Well, I absolutely commend you to actually get the first book out and now soon the second one against those hurdles, right? Having those sort of family threats of lawsuits and having the family go against you and all that, to still go ahead and get your word out takes strength. And I commend you on that, Jerome.
I
It's
appreciate that.
at best of times, publishing a book comes with its own challenges, let alone against hurdles like that. And I think, needed a lot of fortitudinal sort of strength to go ahead and still get that word out, especially on such sensitive subjects. So, what's the title of your first book?
My book is called Tapped Yet Unrooted. Again, it's a play on words. A tree is tapped, a family is tapped. A tree can be unrooted, and a family can also be unrooted. So it's tapped yet unrooted, and it's called it's subtitled Poetic Word Slaughter because I murdered every word in there.
And the second book title is going to be?
It's going to be Emmanuel's Garden.
Wow.
So, not to give away the first book, but at the very end of the first book, you find out what happened to my child Emmanuel, who passed away in 2015. As I was saying, this October 11th was his birthday. So we celebrated that this past week. And the next book is a tribute to him, but I don't want anyone to get it twisted that it's not a children's book. I'm paying homage to my son that passed away, but it's still tapped yet and rooted. It's feeling based. It's gonna be how do I say? It's gonna be more. This is how it felt than stories. In the first book, I told a lot of stories. This is how it felt to lose my son. This is how it felt to lose my family. This is how it felt to overcome. You know what I mean? Like, so it's gonna be that type of poetry. But again, like I said, I do explain what happened to me with my abuser. I explained to you, like, after Tapped dropped, I had a gentleman come out of the woodwork and say, hey, I think I might be your father. Let's get DNA tested. Like, if I hadn't been through enough. Yeah. So it's still going to be, there's still that story base, but it's going to be more feeling as well.
Yeah. Now that the loss, I read your poem that you posted on the loss of their child, and that's another big injustice to me. Parents should never have to bury their child, and that's another considering considering everything that you'd been through in childhood, then to experience that again, my friend, my heart goes out to you, and I absolutely commend you on.
Well, the thing about that too is, again, I touch on this in the second book, is nobody really knows how brave my fiance was through that pregnancy, because the entire time the doctors wanted to
Mm,
terminate, and she was like, "I absolutely not. My son will see
mm,
the light of day." And she, every single doctor's visit, she fought to keep, like, it was, will he be Downs? Will he not be Downs? Will he be
mhm,
worse? You know what I mean? And we were like, we're
mm,
gonna love him regardless. And what Emmanuel had was called trisomy 18. And when he came out, it's just he had severe heart issues. He wasn't he wasn't meant
mm,
to stay, but we were blessed. But we were blessed enough to have him for
mm,
7 hours, and that's thanks to my fiance, who had the courage to say, I'm going to carry this all the way through regardless
mm.
of the outcome. So a lot of love and praise to her
My
for that.
sincere condolences to both you and your partner. As I said, that's one of the biggest injustices in the world. My ex-wife, she carried a child prior to me getting involved, 3 weeks short of full term, and she gave birth to it normally. And that child now, today, would be 35 years old. And on the 5th of October, up until we separated, I would hear her silent sobs in the night on that 5th of October. So some of those scars you never get over. You might heal, you learn to live, and you learn to carry on, but those memories will always be there. So heartfelt condolences and divine blessings to both you and your partner on that, Jerome. It's frog in my
Appreciate that.
throat, but yeah.
And Jerome, what I can say is this. Sometimes we feel we have to hold on to the pain, to hold on to the memory. My son was supposed to be a twin. So I was in the hospital with one in neonatal intensive care, me on the cancer floor, and the other one in the morgue. And for years, I celebrated my son's birthday only with half of a heart.
Mm, mm,
And I felt guilty about that because I always mourned his brother. But there's so much of you in all of your children. And
Right.
there's so much of your son in his siblings. Start searching for those things. It will comfort you because you will never forget him, but you'll honor those that are still here
mm,
through his memory.
mm.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. My son is 20
Because
years old and
uh,
I still get like,
yeah. Well, Jaden, his older brother. So my fiance and I have another son, Jaden, and unfortunately, a year after Emmanuel passed away, we almost lost Jaden. Um, Again, if I hadn't been through enough, on Christmas Day, Jaden was unresponsive, and we had to rush him to the hospital. And it turned out that he was a type 1 diabetic, and we had brought him to the doctor, and they told us it was an ear infection. And so overnight, he declined, and we had to rush him. We didn't go back to that same hospital. We rushed him to another town on Christmas morning, and they saved his life. And we go into the hospital, and we're like, is he okay? And they're like, we can't tell you that. Well, is he going to be okay? We can't tell you that. And I'm like, holy shit, here we go again. I'm going to lose 2 sons within 2 years. Praise God that that didn't happen, and he's still with us. But I see a lot of Emmanuel in my son Jaden, and it's like, we almost lost you too. So like, we love him extra hard, and he's very he's spoiled to a fault, but he's
Yeah.
still with us. He's still with us, and what you said was exactly right. When I think of Emmanuel, I look at Jaden, and I'm like, thank God that
Yeah.
we still have him here to remind us that life is still good.
and see how resilient Jaden was.
Mm,
See how
Yeah,
resilient. So it's not just your fiance, it's you. and it is your son, it is your children. So like, and it's hard, like death is hard. Telling somebody it's gonna be okay is so, oh,
Mm.
that's such a small band-aid on a gaping wound.
Mm.
So here's the problem with me is I am a God-fearing person. I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. I'm very spiritual, but boy, did I go at him, and we had
Mm.
words, and it's like you can't do
Mm.
this to me again. You know what I mean? Like the first time, I lost it, and like now I'm gonna lose it again. And but luckily, like I said, thank God Jaden survived, and we didn't have to have that talk. But
Oh, we've had that talk. We had that talk for a couple of years, just like everything. And then to turn around, I couldn't have children either. I almost lost my life, and I lost the ability to have children right after. Like it's basically the same week that I lost my son and gave birth to the other one. I almost lost my life, and I lost my ability to have children. So the thought of like right after the death, 3 days after, saying, okay, well maybe I can have more children, that just went completely out the window 3 days after I gave birth.
Mm.
So we had a couple of words, but they're 20 and 26 now. My daughter's 26, my son is 20, and I believe I was supposed to have two, not five, because I love him. I love him, but I just want to hug them around the neck
yeah,
just a little bit sometimes.
I understand that. So that's basically what I read on. My first book and my second book is real life experience. My this tapped yet unrooted is what it looks like. It goes from literally sperm till 2015 when Emmanuel passes away. The next book I pick up somewhere and go on till now. But it's all real life poetry. It's all these are my experiences. This is what happened to me. It's a memoir. But every poem is a story that leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next, until you get my
Mm.
life
Mm.
story.
So basically, it's a life of poetry.
Exactly.
Gemini, your
Beautiful.
words, your words actually did touch me as well there, because for you every year on their birthdays, that bittersweet pill, isn't it? You celebrate the one's birthday, and then you've got the loss of the other one. So that must be a hard day for you.
I
That's
I actually learned to honor my son who's here.
yeah.
It was because of my friend, and I'm trying to make this brief. Because of my friend Ivan. Ivan is from Cameroon, and one year I didn't make it to the cemetery, and I had spent the entire day with my son, but it was dark, and the cemetery is not in a good neighborhood. And he asked me. He said he's going to meet me there, and he met me there, and he said, um, "I think I think it's time to say goodbye."
Mm.
Or see
Mm.
you later, because he knew my faith. And he says, it's not fair to Kenny because every year you mourn when you're supposed to be rejoicing that he's
Mm.
here. And I took what he
Mm.
said
True.
to heart. He said, and he gave me time. He didn't exactly say it like that, but he gave me time. And I sat at the cemetery and I cried. I cried. I had two sets of pictures of my son. Um, a set was with him right after nurses took a picture of him, and they gave me a little care box. And the other set was what was taken at his funeral, and they opened the casket for me, which I wish I had known at that time not to take that. He said, "Well, I don't think you should keep these pictures because you don't want to remember him that way."
Mm.
I said, "I can't." He said, "I can't destroy them for you because then you would still be holding on to that." And he said, I tore them up and he took them from me so I didn't have to dispose of them myself. And that
Mm.
helped because
Wow.
I see my son, I see Kenny, and I see his brother because they're identical twins. So I see them instead of seeing that picture of a mummified body. I see him, and then I can pull out the care box with the pictures of him as a baby and with my son as a baby, and I see them. I don't see that image anymore. That image of him gone. To me,
Mm.
he's still here. He's still alive. His spirit is still here. I will see him when I pass away. He's in my son, he's in my daughter, the humor, everything they have, it's in there. So I don't have that view of him anymore.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. I could keep talking about I could keep this discussion going all day long. It's amazing story, Jerome, and as I said, absolutely commend your strength. Number one, surviving all this, but B, getting the word out there and sharing it as well. So I'd love to hear some of your poetry and discuss. We've had a great discussion here. But it's So I'm going to leave you the floor. Maybe start. Maybe to share a piece, and we'll discuss that. And yeah. Have I lost you, or can you hear me, Jerome?
I
I'm
think
sorry,
there's a
you're
slight
breaking up.
delay.
Yeah, I can hear you now. You were breaking up a little
Sorry.
bit.
Yeah,
Okay.
as I said, I could keep this discussion going all day long. It's just an amazing story. But maybe let's hear some of your poetry that you've chosen to recite today. Maybe read one piece and we'll talk about that and just get on to the next ones. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear you, but I think there's a slight delay. Can you hear us, Jerome?
I can hear you.
Uh,
But you can't hear
he
me.
was there's
Okay, I can hear you. I
awesome.
can hear you now.
Go ahead, Rainier.
Maybe Jerome, if you shared shared a piece of your poetry from that you've chosen to read.
Sure. Can you
Yep,
still hear me?
I can.
Okay, sounds good. I'm gonna go into my book. So this is a poem about abuse. When I was a young child, I had a family member that was a really bad alcoholic. So I would do things that were like dump their beer in the sink and get myself in trouble. So this is called Orange Badge of Courage, and it's based on a true story. When I heard them write words like orange,
We've lost your audio.
Yeah, he's spinning. I don't think the connection is the best right now.
Yeah, you can hear me okay?
Yes, I can, but you're a little pixelated.
All right.
It
Okay,
looks like we
fine.
lost Jerome.
Let me see if I can bring him back. Yeah, we just lost the connection there.
Sometimes the connection goes bad because we're overseas and if there's weather in between.
Yeah, I'm bringing Jerome back up. Hi, Jerome.
hello.
We lost you there for a minute, so maybe start that piece again.
That's okay. I looked up and you were gone. Okay. It's called Orange Badge of Courage. And it goes, when I heard them rhyme words like orange, porridge, 4-inch, door hinge, and storage, I thought our tree could a buckthorn relate. What if I add my own flair to create? If I may step a bull up to the plate. When he refers to porridge, what he's really referring to is stale oatmeal drowned in lukewarm Worcester water, if that's all that they could forage when there's shortage of cereal that they normally ate. That's a highly discouraged at any rate. But if he must, he'd introduce a 2 or more inch forage to his porridge, since that was the only fruit left in icebox storage. But there was porridge was usually running on empty. Since that one time when he accidentally spilled the last of his porridge on the floor and it left an orange floor tinge, you better clean it all up or you're gonna be sorry. Don't tempt me. He's sick to his core cringe if that orange led to a sore binge of his ass at the tail end of a belt of his slipper. They weren't orange nor fringe, yet they sure kicked off his endurance while wondering if it was going to be the black leather or yellow slip-on ass whipper. He supposed that either was better than being hit with an orange store wrench or a scuba diving flipper, right? For the better part of a year, he lived in fear of that goddamn slipper. Even more so if it came anywhere near several cans of beer, though they weren't a sipper. That's when he learned the importance of an orange door hinge, as they almost busted off like Jack the Ripper wielding the fucking slipper. Okay, it was a rusty copper color, but you get the freaking picture. At least the door is still an upright yet unopened fixture. And his ass is about to become a magnificent red, yellow, black, and blue mixture. Looks like he's taking another one for the team. Blister.
That rhyme scheme and the rhyme scheme, it's kind of keeps you kind of tied in, and then as it unfolds, you hear the reality of the experience itself.
So what would happen is they would get drunk, and we knew that we were getting our asses kicked.
Yeah.
So we'd run, we'd shut the door, we'd hide under a bed, and they'd always find us.
That's not a, oh my God, that's terrible. I was actually quite impressed on how writing it in the terms as the third person, with no references. That must have been so hard writing it like that. It would have taken a lot of effort, especially a personal narrative that you're describing, to write it in that third person like that, introducing the rhyme and the metaphors. Yeah, that's just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said,
I have one question.
that was a
Go ahead.
post edit. Go ahead.
Yeah.
It was about the edit. So did you edit it yourself, or did you have assistants editing? Because you had to go back and edit an entire book.
I edited the entire book 3 to 4 times. I'm OCD. I went through every
Yeah.
like I can't tell you, like, in order to save people's faces, I destroyed some of the best rhyme schemes I've ever written in my life. But that's not to say that this book isn't dope, because I honestly, like I said before, I honestly feel like this is the best poetry book written on its topic. I made sure that, like, that poem, I didn't do it justice. I didn't read it very well because I was more concerned about whether or not you guys could hear me. But I made sure that every poem in this book flows like a river. That was my goal. I don't want you to lose. I didn't want to lose your attention. So I'm like, if I make this rhyme all the way through, and there's a cadence to it that's my own, I'm gonna keep your attention. And I've had people be like, "Yeah, I read your book in 2 days. I couldn't put it down. I had to keep on picking it back up. I'd walk away and come back." It's that type of book.
Yes, I definitely will be putting that on my reading list, just to know the journey itself. So, question for you: down the track, is there a possibility of a release of this written in its true sense?
I've been asked that, and the God's honest truth is, I would have to wait for certain people to pass away for me to be able to, because you can't sue on behalf of the dead.
Yeah.
So, I mean, could I do that? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, my sister would probably had a better book than I would, because she remembers everything. I remember what hurt me, and that's what this is. That's like I said, like, I didn't by any means have a bad life. I had a normal upbringing. The only thing that really messed me up was I always thought that I was alone in my upbringing. Like, in times of abuse, I thought we were the only ones, because we'd go to school and you don't tell, "Hey, were you hit last night?" I was. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So it's like, I always thought, damn, I got my ass kicked last night, and look at all these happy people. Or I didn't eat dinner last night, and look at you, you're all fed. You know what I mean? Like so. You just never know what someone else is going through.
Yeah. Well, again, I got to commend you and admire your strength and also your consideration also to protect these people's identity. I'm just driven by justice, and if in that case, to me, if you're gonna if you're gonna stand up and do something, well, accept it, and you're gonna be publicly, made evident, right? And I would struggle to protect these people's identity, but I respect your strength and admire your character to do that as well.
So
That's a weakness.
here's the thing. I've learned a lot recently. I mean, don't get me wrong. You're gonna find out in the next book that I went and saw a therapist.
Mm, mm,
So it wasn't all on my own, but the Lord says you have to forgive. You need to forgive to truly be right with yourself, and that's been my biggest accomplishment.
mm,
Is I forgive all of it. I forgive everybody. I forgive my perpetrator. The guy, the one that abused me. I abused. Excuse me. I forgive my family. I forgive everybody.
mm,
We're not gonna break bread anytime soon.
mm,
I
mm,
forgive you. We're good.
mm,
And
mm,
that's the thing, that's the misconception that we've been taught as Christians. The Bible says that God puts a veil of forgetfulness over things, over your sin. But we've adopted the forgive and forget that places victims in a vulnerable state again to relive those things or to have things happen to them again because you're supposed to forgive and forget. No, the lesson is there. I had the lesson. Why should I forget what was taught to me?
mm, mm, mm,
I know how to see a monster now, so I'm supposed to forget that you were a monster and what monsters look like.
Mm.
So I forgive, but stay away from me, stay away from my kids.
That's a fact.
there's some lessons some of us still need to learn, and my lessons are yes to park vengeance on a vengeful beast, and yeah, that's my challenge to overcome. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Love
Now,
to.
now, don't get me wrong. There have been a couple occasions where I attempted to unlife myself. I guess that's the term we're using. And I'm not proud of it. And again, nobody knew in my family. I didn't tell anyone. Um, but in my poetry that I was sharing online, I was crying out for help. I wanted people to like ask me, "Are you okay?" And it never
Mm,
came. It never came. It never
mm,
came from my family. It never came from friends. It never came from those close to me. And I'm like, do I really put on that brave of like, am I that good at hiding
mm,
that I'm freaking miserable?
mm, mm,
Like
But
you don't
that's
you,
the thing,
you don't
everybody's
see.
hiding. Everybody's hiding in plain sight.
And the biggest thing is like I always wanted people to think like Jerome's the greatest person alive. He's got it all together. He's doing well. So like my biggest fear was people finding out that I'm a fraud in those in that regard.
mm,
Yeah, I'm an excellent basketball player. Yes, I'm extremely intelligent. Yes, I was the fastest kid in New England, but I was abused and I didn't tell anybody. I was hit. I was sexually abused. I was mentally abused. I was verbally abused, and I didn't tell anybody, not a soul. When I wrote this book and my family read it, I was like kind of like antsy because I was like, they're finally gonna find out why I am the way that I am, and they're finally gonna give me the love that I've been looking for my entire life. And guess what? Rather than show me love and say, "Hey, we understand. Are you okay?" I had a family member say, "Choose him or me," and they drew a line down the family, and I got disowned by 90% of the family. So
mm,
here I am thinking that people may finally understand me, and it was the opposite. They got rid of me. They tossed me to the curb. So
mm, mm,
now I'm on the outside of my family looking in, and I'm like, hey,
mm.
like I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, yeah,
The best
yeah,
things are only in the top 10% anyway, so you're good.
yeah.
Mhm.
And there are people, imagination born, just put in a comment, she'll never ignore anybody ever. And there are people, I myself will never turn my head away, no matter how busy I am, from anybody who wants to, once a year to listen to. Yeah. So there are people, and I think after what you've been through, I think after experiencing, we make good listeners too. So, in sharing our words. Love to hear another piece, Jerome.
Sure thing. I actually, in preparation, I dogtailed a bunch of my. So I don't know what I chose. I just chose it. So
And now that, because I don't have work looming over me, it's my Saturday, so if I'm not handicapped to an hour either. We can go as long as we need to here, so it's good.
this one is called Good versus Evil. I have a way with words. I have a mean streak inside. I'm a voice with many followers, and there's nothing left for me to hide. But which do I listen to? The angel to the left or the devil to the right? The angel's on the side of me telling me to stop. The devil's on the side of me screaming at the top of his lungs, just fucking right. Normally for me, this is a no-brainer, but I can't control mentally pick a side. But I cannot mentally pick a side. I'm fighting through this pain. They're scattered throughout my brain. On one hand, I should forgive and forget. On the other, I have so much fucking disdain. I want to ball it into a fist and release a factual fury of blame. Look what you've made me do. Look what I've done with shame, the hurt, the mud, through which you continually drag my name. I'm publicly demolishing my closet, clearing out space for you to hang. Out with every coward that turns their backs on the roots from whence they claim their friggin' name. Fuck an apology, fuck working shit out. Fuck things between us won't ever be the same, and I mean never be any fraction of the same. And fuck anyone that strongholds my reputation. You'll never be me. That shit's pathetically lame. I'll say it, it'll be until I'm blue in the face. Fuck all these childish games to which our tree claims their fame.
Mm.
It sounds like you unloaded a little bit in that poem.
Yeah, there's a lot of sentence enhancers in this book.
Yeah, yeah. The At the very start of it, you perfectly captured one of the biggest challenges I faced through life. I've pretty much got there, but there are occasions still, depends on my frame of mind, where I slip over. And that's balancing that, the right and the left side, that masculine and the female energy, that angel of heaven and the devil, balancing that and finding that balance within. That's been my biggest struggle. As I said, I was a vengeful creature. I had all the time in the world. I would lay my life for somebody who deserved, but then I'd go out of my way to take a life to some unjust, and to find that balance and bring my reactions into a bit more of a balanced reaction took a lot of doing, and I still slip. I haven't mastered it. I'm there, nearly there, but there are times when I do slip. I've got to constantly, consciously draw myself into that, and it is very hard, especially when you are the victim and you've experienced that. To find that balance, I absolutely commend you, because I haven't been the victim. Generally, I've picked up the crosses of other people and fought the battles. Not even my own crosses, but driven by that innate sense of justice. I've picked up that cross and to find that balance. So I absolutely commend you, after being a victim of so many things, as well as even the sad losses of your own loved ones and so forth, to find that balance. I absolutely
Yeah,
commend you.
I have so many reasons why I shouldn't be here right now,
Mm,
and
mm,
I'm so thankful that I am. Which leads me to this next piece that I share on every podcast that I go on, just because it's so important. I wear it around my neck, the semicolon.
mm,
And this is based on when I was at my lowest of lows, crying out for help. I shared this poem on Facebook looking for someone to be like, "Are you okay?" And I got praised on how well it was written.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, but it's called Semicolon, and it goes like this. Semicolon. Heart semi-swollen, thoughts heavy, rolling, blood steady strolling. There's no control of these suicidal tendencies. Constantly feeling the weight of 10 dent seas, and I'm drowning. Yeah, your boy's been battling demons since the tender age of 9. I spend the same amount of time since I've been saying that I'm fine, yet there's been at least a time or 3 where they've gotten the best of me, and I tripped over that fine line. Okay, I threw myself across with tears trickling out my faucet. Unfortunately, there's no offset. Each failed attempt deposit has me cleaning out my closet, and I'm drowning. Beneath this massive memories, bequeath these massive memories. I guess this is all that's left of me. These tears shed to the left of me as I sit here and hesitantly ponder. My mind starts to resistantly wander. Absence has never helped me grow any fonder of this depression that drags me down yonder. For years I've been treading lightly. All of my fears have been deadened slightly. One by one overcoming them nightly. Grasping for droplets of sanity tightly. And I'm drowning. Trapped in this storm of sunder. Day by day I slip a little further under. Anxiety and depression by lightning and thunder. With tears raining on my face in a blunder. When will my misery end? I constantly wonder. Always so fucking depressed. This weighted burden lays across my chest. On the inside, I'm a goddamn mess. But on the outside, I'm clean cut, got my shit together, and I'm always neatly dressed. And I'm drowning. I just wanted you to know that you'll never be alone because I'm with you, Rome.
Mm,
That line that got me, I tripped over the line. No, I threw myself across it.
mm, mm.
Could you repeat that line for me?
Yeah, yeah, it says there's been at least a time or 3 where they've gotten the best of me, and I tripped over that fine line. Okay, I threw myself across it with tears trickling out my faucet.
Mm, mm, mm,
Unfortunately, there's no offset. Each failed attempt to deposit has me cleaning out my closet.
mm, mm,
And that's the thing. When you're in pain, you're so passionate that people see the passion and they completely are blindsided and don't see the pain, or they see the pain, they don't want to feel it, so they ignore it. Or they try to give you something that says, hey, good job, feel better, I cannot hold your pain.
Right.
I don't think people mean to ignore it. Sometimes I just don't think that they can handle it, or they don't think they can handle it.
Well, I mean, like I said, if you looked at me, I don't look like someone that's attempted suicide,
mm,
and it's been more than one time. Which, like I said again, that's not something that I'm proud of. That's not something I brag about. But I feel like it's something that people should know. Like, even someone that looks just like me, acts just like me, can feel this way, and it's not a bad thing. You know, I'm
mm,
still here because I'm a fighter. I don't give up. In my book, I have this one line that says, I'm suicidal, but I have a fear of dying."
mm, mm,
Or whoever heard of suicidal with a fear of dying is the way that goes. But it's like that's me. Like I don't want to die. I just sometimes feel like I don't want to be
mm,
here.
mm. Imagination underscore born underscore in the dark, putting a comment. It's a miracle a lot of us are here. She's been trying for 30 years to leave this plane. Yes, thank you very much for your support there too, Imagination. As you say, everything people think everything is rosy because they don't acknowledge the truth. You know, then that's so true too. Um, Fully understand that, but Imagination, I do hope you don't leave this plane and do hang around longer because we're here for a journey, right? And whatever those lessons are to learn, and I think being destined.
It's gotten to the point where like I'm afraid that something like spontaneous might happen to me, and people are like, "Finally did it!"
Yeah,
Like, no,
yeah.
no, no.
Well, I've lived my life like there's no tomorrow. I didn't never cared from a young age. I never cared if tomorrow the sun never rose. I still live like that. And through that, I've because I have had no fear of the end, I've lived life to the fullest. I've always gone out on that limb and picked the best fruit because I was not fearful of a fall. But some would say,
I, on the other hand,
pretty foolhardy way I've lived my life. But then they say,
yeah,
well, geez, you've had a great life. But then it didn't come from me sitting in an armchair and not taking risks, right?
See,
So,
yeah, but
that's
that's
my
you
problem
though.
is I'm constantly worrying about what is my legacy? What am I leaving behind?
Yeah,
I recently took a trip to Florida, and my best friend was like, "Can we talk like for real, for real?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you can say anything." And he's like, "Let it go." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Your legacy. Stop worrying about what you're leaving behind." And I'm like, "I've never told anybody that I'm worried about my legacy." And he's like, "No, we all know. Everybody, you're not hiding anything." He's like, "You got to stop." He's like, "You're living life, live your life the best of your ability, and whatever happens, happens. That's your legacy." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I mean, I want people to remember me."
mm,
but
mm,
people are remembering you now, Rom, and that is so beautiful that your friend was trying to free you.
mm,
And like being, you said that you're OCD, right?
Yes.
It is a part of your nature to want to go ahead and to get things in order.
mm,
I think I think you should embrace that about yourself, that you're constantly striving for your legacy, but you need to remind yourself that you are creating your legacy with everything that you've chosen to do. To
mm,
not be silent, to be vulnerable, to connect to others, to recognize your pain. Because once you recognize your pain, you recognize that the pain in others.
mm.
You
Right.
give them the ability to free themselves. Like that
That's the
poem
goal.
that you shared, like I shared a poem like that. My brother messaged me like, "Hey, you okay?" But it was kind of like, "Hey, you okay? I want to be okay. Are you okay?" It wasn't like, "Hey, you okay?" Once I said okay, that was it. There was nothing else.
Right.
Mm, mm. And your words in your books, in every form that you've published in, those words will live on. And it could reach people way beyond your journey. Even when you're fertilizing the daisies, your words could be helping uh, the next generations.
So
And I
that's
think,
what that like. That's kind of. I don't mean to cut you off, but like, it's one of my my biggest fears is like I put this book out, and I'm like, show me love while I'm here. I want to see it. Don't Tupac dies and then he sells 1 million out. You always hear someone dying and then that's when their book sales pick up or their songs or their music or whatever it was. That's when everything sells, and it's like appreciate me while I'm here, please. I want to see it. I want to be a part of it.
mm, mm, mm. Yep, yep. It's nice to see the fruits of your labor bear fruit while we're here, right? Definitely. But remember that the tree will continue to bear fruit even long after we're gone. And your poetry, I love your recitals and your rhythm to your recitals. But your poems have so much power within the lines. I think it's definitely one of those. Your work is something that I've got to read and read because and absorb each line. Um, like it's great to hear you recite it in the cadence you intended it to. But there's so much in those short, sharp lines that says a lot. And knowing now that the way you wrote, the context that you edited it in, I would have to read it and slowly absorb everything. What is the leaves? What is the seed? Yeah.
So I actually wrote an entire poem that explains, it breaks down that entire thing, like who's who and who and why in the
Mm,
beginning of the book,
mm,
so that
mm.
you have an idea. Basically a cheat sheet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
no word of a lie. Like the next book that comes out, you're gonna find out. Like I said, I was seeing a therapist, and the first thing I did when I walked in was like, "Here, you're gonna need this."
Yeah, 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 yeah. Love to hear another piece from you, Jerome.
Sure thing. Let me
And
see what I have.
while Jerome's getting ready, thank you to the audience. Thank you, Imagination. Your support on this has been great. And Dre, thank you. Yes, it was good to hear Gemini give us a bit of a Sunday sermon there. She's good. And I'm not going to say this is I do enjoy hosting this show with Gemini because it's besides the poet and getting to know the featured guests, getting to know their poetry, it's these expounding on these discussions. I think that really means a lot to me because it hopefully gives the listeners who will probably watch this show later even something to think about and figure their own thoughts. So thank you, Gemini, for all that. It really means a lot. Sorry, Jerome, floor is yours.
You're good. So this goes back to what we were just talking about, and the poem is called "Forget Me Not." And again, when I speak of seeds and leaves, seeds are children, leaves are adults. So when my seeds are self-efficient and they're all fully grown, when they become young adults and have lives of their own, when they someday become fathers and start showing their kids everything that they've been shown, when they're instilling the same morals and values that would more than happily condone, I just want to be remembered. I'd really like to be remembered. When I become the elderly gentleman that I once dreamed that I could be, when I've accomplished everything on that ever so lengthy bucket list, when they're looking through old pictures and stumble upon some that include me, when they're all together speaking of all the good times that they miss, I just want to be remembered. I'd really like to be remembered. When life turns cold because we've grown old, when my will to live has been held at bay, when I forget everything that's ever been told, that I've ever been told, when I'm at a loss for poetic words to place on display, I just want to be remembered. I'd really like to be remembered. When all is said and done and I've said my last day, when daylight turns to dusk and my blue skies fade to gray, when my candle is burnt out at both ends and I've worn out my stay, when I close my eyes that one last time and I drift and pass away, I just want to be remembered. I'd really like to be remembered. When my words no longer leave my mouth, but still speak clairvoyantly on paper. When my presence is no longer visual, but my soul lives on in spiritual vapor. When they all quote from famous poets that read of love, life, family, scandals, and miscellaneous capers. When I've long gone to heaven, and I'm rested peacefully beside my makers. I just want to be remembered. I'd really like to be remembered.
I definitely resonate with that piece. For a very long time, I just thought that I was forgettable. I was a wallflower. I was invisible. How long ago did you write that piece?
Um, so it would have been between 2011 and 2015.
How do
Actually,
you feel?
2020. So 2011 and 2020. I apologize.
That's okay. How do you feel now?
Um, I still want to be remembered.
Do you feel on the level of like people remember me or know my name? Or do you feel better about it now than you did at the time that you wrote the poem?
Oh, I definitely feel better now. Like Valerie, who was doing one of her shows, was talking to Triple P, the poet, and she was like, "You don't know Poetic Rome," and I wasn't there for that. I went to her show later and watched it by myself after the fact, and it was like, "You don't know Poetic Rome," and I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! They know me." You know what I mean? Because I wasn't there for it. It was like they were talking about me while I wasn't present. That to me is like, yeah, that's awesome.
Um,
I remember the
how?
show
Oh, go ahead.
there. I remember that show when PPP goes to who's poetic Rome, and yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Rom, how old are
So,
the children?
so my oldest is 19, and then I have an 18-year-old. I have Jaden is 9, and Emmanuel would have been 8.
Mm.
and I have a stepdaughter who is 26.
Mm.
Wow.
Mm.
So, as of right now, you're never going to be forgotten. Period.
No.
Like right now, my kids do things right now, and I'm like, I know they got that from me.
Yeah.
Your children are going to see you in your grandchildren and in their great grandchildren. But more than that, like the way you make people feel is what they remember.
Mm.
So as long as you continue doing what you've been doing and give to people the way you want to feel and give that to them first, your name is attached to that feeling, not by anything you ever did or any money you've ever given. Ever.
Mm.
Like I said, my goal throughout this whole thing was I just want to let everyone know that you weren't alone in whatever it was that you were dealing with. When I was abused, like I said before, I always felt like I was alone. There was nobody there. It was just me going through this. After the book came out and people read the book, I was so surprised that like people that I thought lived normal lives were contacting me like, I went through this too, and I went through that, and I went in, and it's like, no, like, not you. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So,
Well, I definitely agree with Gemini. Jerome, you will be remembered because I'd only read a few of your pieces here and there, and then after watching their interview on Unraveled, and I watched that even I missed some of it, and then I rewatched the rest of it, and I certainly remembered you from there. And when Gemini and I started this show, we've got a pool of people that we want to interview and have feature on the show, and your name came up there very early in the piece, just from my memory of your interview with Unraveled. And we've got people locked in now till the 15th of December. So there's a big pool there that, and your name was certainly in there at the very start because I remembered your work. And now that after this interview, and I've connected more with your story as well, mate, I'll never forget. I'm haunted with a photographic memory, and I'll never forget these things. And I do wish our paths do cross in person because I'd love to have a beer with you and really share your experiences and discussions with you. So I do hope, God willing, that I do get a chance to have a beer with you and just speak like friends because I resonate with with your work, but I admire and respect the, that you've made it and you've turned out to be who you are after what you have been through. Even, as I said, one of the biggest injustices to me in life is a parent having to bury a child. And I don't know if I've got the strength to survive that. And I'm a strong person. Nothing, I don't fear, but I really
that's the thing.
question
Like,
strength. And
after everything that I've been through, I always tell me like I'm the strongest person I know. I may not be built strong, but mentally, I'm the strongest person that I know. I
yeah.
know where I've been. I know how I survived, and I know where I can go if I just keep focused and keep my mind in the right place.
Mm, 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 mm. No, man, totally respect you as a person, and I'll certainly be, and also do let people know where they can get your books because I, for one, will DM you and get the links to where I can get the books from because I'm very keen to read, particularly the first one until while the second one's getting out there. I'd really love to read it, and I'm sure there'll be many others who probably watch this. Oh, also, I must mention, so besides sharing this, when I share this on Instagram, I will add you and Gemini as collaborators so you can, it'll be on your page as well. Besides that, over the next few days, what I do is I release it on YouTube. We're going to channel something more than gibberish on the YouTube channel. And then within the week or shortly after, I'll also get it out. I'll put it out on a podcast format on your Spotify, your Amazon, Google, all your normal channels there. I'll get that out and I'll share you the links as well. So you never know who hears this, right? And so do let people know where they can find your books as well. The current one and the
So
one.
my book is Tapped Yet Unrooted. You can see here. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on Barnes and Noble. It's online everywhere. Books are sold. And like I said, this is my life story from sperm to 2015. Every piece is a poem that's a story, and every story leads to the next, to the next, to the next, and it builds up and it flows like a river. It's like I said before. I think it's the best poetry book ever written, and I take that with me, not just because I wrote it, just because I know what I like and I know what this is, and I've read this a million times. Like I'll go back and read, and I can't believe that I wrote it. Like that's to me, like if I can step away from it, come back to it, and be like, holy shit, you did that.
Mm.
That's a good book. You know what I mean? Like so,
Mm.
and like I said, Amazon.com. You get yourself a copy. You won't be upset with yourself for doing so.
Mm. Mm. I don't think so either. I think I'm certainly looking forward to getting my hands on a copy and hang forth for the next one to come through as well.
Yeah, like I
Yes,
said,
I'm excited.
Valerie bought a copy and she's been reading it and she's been messaging me and she's like, "Oh my God!" Like, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't wait for your review. Like, if this is the way you're coming at me, like in my DMs, I wanna see the review. You know what I mean? And it has 55 or 56 5-star reviews. Um,
Nice.
so and it was named it was a finalist in the Best Book Awards for American poetry. So you can see that right there.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Congratulations. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great achievement. So I think any concerns about being remembered, Jerome, I think you can bin those thoughts, mate, because you'll be remembered number one as a person, but number two for your work as well. And as a person, that's what will live on in, as Gemini said, besides your own children and your grandchildren, the
Well,
people who've come into contact with you as well.
I've been meaning to thank you for a while because I did see your comments on my interview with Unraveled, and you were like, I saw him on Unraveled, and you had very nice things to say about the way that I carry myself and the way that I speak, and I was like, this dude gets it. So
Yeah.
I was happy.
Mate, as I said, it stuck with me, and one of the first people I put in when we started. So this is, I think, our 10th episode. So 2.5 months ago, when we started the show, I think your name came in that pool very
Kaden.
almost immediately. And look, I'm not dare not say that this is the
So,
first and hello. How are you?
okay, thank you.
Cute little fella. Uh,
That's my
uh,
little guy. That's Jaden.
Oh, he's adorable.
yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
You're welcome.
But
And
yeah, like
I dare say
you had so.
hopefully this won't be the last time that we have you on either, because as we get through, who knows, 6 months later, we might be visiting some of the guests that we have featured as well. So um, I've certainly enjoyed every minute of this conversation that we had, and also your poetry. And I think that you got a lot more to say too. I think, yeah, Gemini, your thoughts there too.
Oh, I think Rome was getting ready to say something before we had that beautiful interlude with that lovely little face. Oh my God, he's so
Uh,
adorable.
what I was gonna say is, like I said, the goal was to have Emmanuel's Garden come out on his birthday, but I don't feel comfortable releasing it yet. And if it's not, like I said, OCD, if it's not perfect, I'm not gonna let it go. So
Yeah.
his birthday did come and go, but I mean, whenever it does come out, it's still gonna hold the same meaning. It's still gonna have the same poetry. So
Mm.
anyway, I also have 3 children's books that I've written already. But again, I'm OCD, so I'm going Tapped Yet and Rooted, Emmanuel's Garden, and then I'm gonna start releasing my children's
Yeah.
books. So,
Are they animated type books, or what sort of kids' books are they?
so I have a book about a beetle that's gonna be coming out, and he goes around collecting every animal of the alphabet and throwing them in his pot, and it's about inclusivity, and
Yeah.
that's illustrated by artist Jason Boucher.
Mm.
And that's going to be it's a really cute book. Anyone that's read it already wants a copy, and I'm like, sorry, it's not out yet. Um, I have a book about diabetes, and that's about Super Jaden, my son, and it's about, again, it's a true story about how Jaden came type 1 diabetic, and the fights that he has with his own body.
Mm.
So that's
Mm.
the second children book. And I have a third book, and that book is called The Struggles, and
Mm.
it's about little children and the many ways that we all struggle. So
Mm.
it's called The Struggles, and you know, this one starts with this, and that one starts with that, and this one starts with this, and at the end they all come together and figure out that you know, they all have that in common.
Mm. Mm. That's
All right.
brilliant because as I've said to quite a few people, some of the kids' books that I see on the shelves today, they were around when I was a kid. So there hasn't been a lot of new material in kids' books, and I'm all for. There's another lady, my poetry and stories, and there's another lady on this in this community, Tina poetry. I'd love for them to one. Roselle from My Poetry and Stories actually does some kids' books, but I'd like to see even Tina do some because really, two things: you need the new material for kids, and B, I think this early education, like about diabetes. You know, I've had friends who their young sons were having to inject themselves with insulin and things like that, and they're not even they hadn't even hit double figures in age, and they were having to inject. But this early education and this the other third book about the being vigilant and careful and enlightening them. You know, I think those are very valid and valuable books in material for for kids. You know, in their early learning. So that's great that you're doing that.
I
Yeah,
love that.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what it will do, not just for the children who are going through it, but for children like the ones in your son's classroom.
Mm,
Because I know
mm,
that he may have to take his insulin while he's in class, and so they can have an understanding of what that is. So it takes away the stigma because this is not anything that he can help. So I can't wait to read your book. Um, I did hear some of your other um, more descriptive poems, um, and that's when and I do have to say, um, part of me wants to apologize for asking you, um, as far as in the line of what to share, um, but it was based a lot on my history as well. So I thank you very much for respecting that. But I look forward to reading your work and hearing more of your work the next time we have you.
mm,
no, I honestly, I'm an open book. Like, I might be the one of the few authors out there. I answer every DM. If you read my book and you want to talk about it, hit me up. Let's have a conversation. Let's have many conversations. Let me know what you think. Let me know how you feel. Like, I'm here for all of it. And that's what
mm,
I keep tell people. Like, I want everybody in the world to read my story and get a feeling for not just like what I've been through, but how we relate as humans.
mm,
Queen Liberati always says we're humaning. How do we human? And this is what I want people to know is like, I'm just like you. I might not look like you. We may be different. We may even come from different backgrounds, but everybody relates when it comes to poverty, abuse, and things of that nature. And I write about it all. I write
mm,
about being without food. I write about the cockroaches being in my raisin bran, and you know what I mean. Like, there's
mm,
no there's no line I won't cross when it comes to sharing my story.
mm,
You know what I mean?
mm,
Like, and I'm gonna tell it to you in a way that you're gonna be. It's gonna. Some of it's funny. Some of it's sad. Some of it's you want to rip your hair out. You know what I mean? Like, I can't believe you went through this,
mm,
and that's the thing. My book has it all. Like, I've had grown men message me and be like, "Dude, I cried,"
mm,
and I'm like, "That's amazing. I pulled that from you."
mm.
And he's like, "No, you don't understand." He's like, "I really like. I bawled my eyes out," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." No, I feel bad. Like, like I was happy you cried. No, I don't. I'm not so happy
Yeah.
anymore.
But
Yeah.
that means they felt something, and then they felt free enough to go ahead and share that with you because men are not allowed to cry. They're not allowed to show emotion, and they're not allowed to show empathy.
Mm,
So
Yeah,
that I'm
I
glad to hear
actually wrote
that.
a line like that in one of my poems, like that Rome's not supposed to cry. Like, I cry a lot. I'm a big baby, but I don't. Here's the thing, and it's probably I don't cry in front of people, and I probably should. Maybe then the people wouldn't look at me like I'm some monster. But I
Um,
cry when I'm alone. I let it out, and I enjoy myself in a good cry.
I would say, for right now, because of your healing, I would say your underbelly is only for those who are worthy of it. Not everyone is worthy in the inner sanctum. And once you're able to sustain the rejection, the judgment, the outright hatred for you being able to be so vulnerable, and the people that judge themselves harshly based on what you're able to withstand,
Mm.
I say then you will know when it's time to feel free to cry in public. For right now,
Right.
don't beat yourself up about it. Whatever
Mm.
you have to do within yourself, do it. But for right now, don't beat yourself up about it. I think you're very vulnerable and very transparent as a man, period. And then as a person who's going through healing. So that part, that
Well,
next step is going to come.
the funny thing is being a poet for some reason makes me a pussy, and I don't understand it. Like I'm just because I write, just because I share my feelings, just because I'm I'm giving you my vulnerability. People like, why don't you share a poem? Why don't you go write me a poem? And it's like, okay, poet. And it's like, dude, why is being a poet like supposed to be offensive?
No,
Yeah.
no, because that is them judging themselves based on you being strong enough to be vulnerable.
Yep.
When people insult you, you have to look at it's something within themselves that they don't like or that they're afraid of.
Mm.
And I look at it the same way when I feel strongly about a person, there's something in them I recognize about myself that I don't like.
Hmm.
Mm.
So the next time someone say, write me a poem, oh, what type of poem would you like me to write for you? Write it right there and then and hand it to them.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, mate, don't ever apologize for being a poet. And if anybody's got any problems with that, that's their problem, as Gemini said, to deal with. I'm a very extroverted personality, and I published under my middle name, which nobody other than family, they didn't know me by my middle name. And there's people that I work with today that still cannot believe that I wrote the two books that I did. They say, no, somebody else wrote it and you just put a name to it, stuck your picture on it. Because that extroverted at work, people call me the shark, right? Because I'm driven by justice and I take no prisoners. So they say, no
Nice.
way could you have written this, knowing when they've known me, that extroverted wild side all their life. And they still, yeah, they think I've stuck my picture on somebody else's book. So, um,
Yeah.
so never apologize for it. And as I said, we had a harmony day and at work, and they asked me if I would read some poetry, and over a lunch and learn, I read some pieces, and they were so appreciative that they saw that vulnerable side of me, which they'd never known for. And I've been with this organisation probably 5.5 years. And as I said, now that you know this other side of me, don't think the normal side that you know is any different. If you want to try me, feel free to come and try me. Feel free to try across the line. This shark still bites, so
Right.
you know. Uh,
Well, that's the thing. Like, because of my OCD and my anxiety and depression and all that, like, I've come to know myself as three different people, and people think that's weird when they hear it. But it's like the child in me is Jay. That's how my family. If you know me, if you're in my family, they call me Jay. It's J J J J J. If you're one of my friends looking in, I'm Jerome. That's Jerome. But if we're really cool and the writer and the fierceness, the basketball player, the I take no prisoners on a basketball court, that's Rome. And that's those are the three sides of me. There's the Jay that's the kid in me, there's the Jerome that you see every day, and then there's the Rome that'll rip your throat out. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like And people like, that's kind of weird to me, but it's like, no, it makes sense to me because I can turn it on and off depending on where I'm at with certain people.
Yeah, yeah,
You know
and
the
that's important.
beautiful thing? You know the beautiful thing about that? I used to think I was a different person in my poems. When you can meld those three together and they're indiscernible, man, that feeling that you get from just having yourself all in one. Jay is no longer the victim. Jay is Jerome that your friends know that is tough.
Mm.
And then Jerome and Jay are both the poet. I want to witness your journey and see you get to that point. Because
Yeah,
separating them,
it's
go ahead.
just so much easier, like to be like the abused kid is Jay, you know, that's
Mm.
there, and like kind of disorient myself from that, you know what I mean? Like, and then it's like the Jerome that you see every day is that's the guy that goes to work, that's the guy that's got a family, that's the guy that's just living life, and then you've got the Rome that's I'll write a poem that'll knock your socks off, that'll kill you, like poetic word slaughter. I murder words, you know what I mean? Like it's easier for me to look at myself in that way, whereas like I'm no longer that kid that was abused, and sometimes I'm not the guy you see on the street. Sometimes I'm Rome, and I'm here doing my thing.
I
Mm.
can't
Mm.
wait to see all three of them in one place. I can only say it. When you get to that point, you'll feel it. And like it's not for me to tell you what you should do. Once I got to that point, and I still have moments where I feel like that child, and all the memories and stuff come back, and then you have to pull yourself out. And I'm the poet that everybody knows, and then I'm the mom. I still have those times,
Mm.
but it feels good being able to pull all of those into one room, into one setting, and just be comfortable sitting with all three.
Mm. 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 Well,
That's
we've
fun.
been going for an hour and a half, so I'd love to hear another poem from you, Jerome, and then we can start winding it down. I've got to say thank you to everybody in the room again, and Jerome, it's been some amazing discussions, mate. It's been very profound, meaningful, and really lovely conversations. It really has been. Thank you for sharing all this side of you too. On a personal level as well, you know, and having Jake come and show his face even topped it off even more.
I'll share one that's a little bit deeper, a little more risky, and then we can move on. It's called Suicide on My Mind. I thought about hanging out in the basement, but I didn't want to be a nuisance by causing a scene. I thought about lighting a fire under my ass with a match of kerosene, but I don't want to bring harm to our home. That'd be a bit too extreme. I thought about consuming a nice fat juicy steak covered in a scrumptious rat seasoning, but I didn't want to go all the way out. At least that was my self-reasoning. After a lifetime of sober living, these two chauffeurs are driving my straight edge ass to drink. They've been arguing for over an hour. When they're done, I'm gonna need to speak to a clinical shrink. I never thought they'd come to this. Tit for tat, blow by blow, this shit's fucking stinks. Never been about quitting, but they're seriously pushing me towards the brink. One of these times I'm gonna take it too far and actually follow through on these urges that I can't control. Until then, I'm gonna keep patching up each and every drama-filled hole in the wall, hole after hole. That is till my own ditch I plummet and lifelessly sink. It's all about contemplating suicide while getting drunk off of all these monotonous thoughts that I overly strenuously think. This is what it's like to be Rome. This is what lies behind the blue eyes that can so elegantly compromise any circumstance that I internalize in order to prevent the outward cries that I keep bottled up inside like a drink. But his life is so perfect. If that's the way it looks, because I ever so calmly smile when I wink, then I guess Rome's a hell of a lot stronger than any of you motherfuckers think. Best believe.
When you
Love
said you
that.
didn't want to be a nuisance, was that a play on words?
Yeah, it's spelled NOOSE.
I caught that. I felt
That
that.
was a good. That was a good catch.
Mm.
Because I wanted when I was reading it, I wanted to say it, but I was like, I'll just keep going.
Don't.
Mm.
Because anybody who's been there knows that feeling when I hang out in the basement, and nuisance, and it was just the right emphasis on the word without overstating it.
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
sorry you've had that feeling. I'm
Mm.
sorry. I'm sorry you've had that feeling.
Mm.
And again, I've never read any of these out loud. I'm sharing, like I said, I'm sharing from the book, and I wanted to share different things for you because I appreciate you having me on here. So everything that other than 2 poems, everything that I've shared here is new. So.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jerome, has been a absolute pleasure, my friend, having you here. I really enjoyed this segment, this episode today. Um, Folks, you've all heard Jerome's story. You've heard him recite some of his work. I think I, for one, will be doing myself a favor and will be picking up his first book because I think there's a lot to read in there. And yeah, you've taken what I knew about you to another level today in this. And I so connect with your whole journey, with your whole mindset and the person you are. Um, and I'm sure Gemini will have similar words to say. It's keep going on what you're doing, man, and believe in yourself and make no apologies. You don't need to, and you will be remembered for many, many aspects. Besides in the hearts of your loved ones, you'll be remembered by many. And I'm sure your words will reach out to many because being able to identify, it's not one or two people who could identify that last piece you just read. Even there's millions out there who could identify with that, and your words will reach people. So keep believing and keep writing, my friend. And it's an honor to be connected with you, and I look forward to keeping abreast of your work as well. But I'm certainly looking forward to picking up your book and delving into reading that, because as I said, your work, it's stuff that I'd probably need to reread and absorb, and each time I read, I'm sure I'll absorb more and more from it.
The thing that you miss is like she so elegantly pointed out is like it's full of those hidden gems.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
if you can't see noose as in NOOSE, it would go over your head. Like
yeah,
when I say suicidal tendencies, constantly feeling the weight of tendencies, I break down tendencies into tendencies.
yeah, yeah.
But that's the
So
thing. Go ahead, Mala.
that's it.
But that's the thing. The metaphor carries the meaning of the word, so you don't have to spoon feed. So it's not lost. And that's the beautiful thing about poetry, especially poetry that is transparent and vulnerable. It is not lost for those who are listening, those who are already connected, those who have already experienced, because I can relate to the work that you're sharing. And that is where your family is. Everybody thinks that family is blood. The people who look like you, they share the same DNA. The DNA that you share with the people who resonate with your work is something that you could not find in the physical sense.
Mm.
And
On
if you
on the back of my book, I actually wrote, I've come to the sad realization that the family that one builds is stronger than the family that one has been handed. As we acquire the ones that appreciate us and let go of those that have taken us for granted. It's right there on the back of the book.
wow, and I haven't seen your book before.
Mm.
So you already know this, and I'll just say constantly remind yourself of that. The 10% of your family that you have, God bless them. They are saving themselves from experiencing some of the things that you experience, because those things that you experience are generational. If one person did it, they taught in action, and just by in their presence around someone else, they taught it to them. And the fact that your family, the 10% that did go ahead and listen, they are protected from that. Okay?
Mm-hmm. I appreciate
And
that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Just keep accepting your babies as you do, because the fact that you let your baby come on camera and be right in there with your interview, he is witnessing who you are. He's witnessing all three parts of you right now.
Well, he was knocking on the door like, "Daddy, you done yet?"
But that's the thing. You allowed him to go ahead. I saw in your eyes, Deborah. I was like, that's probably a kid. I saw in your eyes, Deborah, and I'm like, yeah. And when he came on camera, I was pleased. I was very pleased that he came on camera.
Yeah.
So he's getting a chance to experience all three parts of you. And once you are able to experience all three parts of you at the same time, I'm happy for you now, because I know it's going to happen. As long as you continue with your journey, it's going to happen.
Mm.
And you're going to be comfortable sitting with all three of them. I'm sorry.
It's really funny that you say that, because my 9-year-old is my biggest supporter. This book is not for children, and he promotes that hell. Like, for a long time he was taking copies out of my box, and if we went out to dinner, he was giving them to waiters. Like, this is my dad's book, and I'm like, okay, if that's how you want to promote, pal, then thank you. But he would come up here. He's like, Dad, we're going out to eat tonight? And I'm like, yeah, we're going to go to the restaurant. He'd come up here. He'd grab a book. I'm ready.
Bless his heart. That's awesome.
So, and like I said, it's not a kid's book at all, but he's my biggest supporter, you know? And plus, he'd be like, Dad, did we sell any books? Because I want some McDonald's.
But that's the thing. That right there is your motivation. That's your legacy.
Yeah.
That is your legacy. You're seeing your and your legacy is pushing you towards a legacy that you can see, but it's right in front of you right now. That is your legacy. Your fiance, that is your legacy. Like, everything that you've done, everything that you have experienced together up until this point, through your healing and through your journey, that is your legacy. The rest of the world is going to catch on eventually. They will. And they'll be sorry that they didn't hop on earlier. But until then, you already have your and I'm crying now. I can't. That is your legacy. And like, I had to come to the realization that mine is sitting next to me right now. He got in the car while y'all were talking. And it's going to be so beautiful once you're able to sit down and breathe for a moment. Because right now, oh no, he's spinning.
Oh, no.
Oh no.
I just
Can
you still hear us, Jerome?
No, I think he's gone.
While
It's going to.
While we bring Jerome up to give some parting words, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everybody for being in the room, and anybody who possibly listen to this later, the replay. And thank you, Gemini. It's been a fantastic show. I'm bringing Jerome up. Hi, Jerome.
Instagram booted me. I don't know what I said.
While you just thanking everybody, and thank you for being a featured guest on the show, and thank you for the very open, honest, heartfelt conversations, for sharing your work. And I wish you all the very best, and hopefully this is the first or the last time that we speak. I certainly will be looking to get your book and also keep up with your work. Any parting words for? It's been over an hour and 3/4, and I have enjoyed every minute of it. It really has been a very enriching show, Jerome. My heartfelt.
I appreciate that. And I heard what you were saying. Instagram kicked me off, but I bounced right back in, and I heard that your son was there, so now he's got to get on camera because I got to see him.
He is a 20-year-old who, like he says, he's not socially awkward, but you have to come in. He's like 8.
He just got to say hello.
I know. Just say hello. Come in.
Hi, Kenny.
There you are. Your mom's the best.
She really is.
That's the person that tells everybody I make all my clothing, and okay, Mom, you have a business card.
Oh, I got the dot card. Have you heard of the dot card?
Yes, I did. I'm gonna have to message you about that. I'll message you about that because I need to get it.
Please do. I went to I did my first public speaking, not to carry this on. I went to my first public speaking and I broke out this card and I was like, here's my book, here's my book, here's my book. So you got to get you one.
Yeah.
Awesome, I will.
Any parting words, Jerome, to your listeners and
Yeah, the like I said, my biggest message is no matter what you've been through in life, remember that you're not alone. I'm here if you want to reach out to me. My DMs are always open. And I just want to say thank you again for having me. I enjoy this opportunity of sharing my story and promoting my book, but it's more about connecting with people. And you guys made this fun, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
heartfelt thanks, Jerome, and it has been a pleasure to have you on. And as I said, hopefully it's not the last time.
Absolutely. When the next book comes out, hopefully we're talking again.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, folks in the room. Thank you, Gemini. Thank you, Jerome. Stay safe, stay blessed, and remember, folks, as Jerome said, you're not alone. There's many. I'm just a DM away. I'm a continent away from most of the listeners, but I'm still only a DM away. And imagination, as you said, she's always there. Every ears to listen, so you're never alone. Please reach out. Stay safe. Stay blessed. Thank you, Gemini. Thank you, Rome.
Appreciate you.
Love you, brother.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.